Now, from CBS News Miami, this is Facing South Florida with Jim DeFede.
Welcome to Facing South Florida. I'm Jim DeFede. A new report from the National Education Association shows Florida now ranks 50th nationwide for teacher salaries. That's down from ranking 48th last year. The NEA report claimed that the average teacher's salary across the country was $69,544, but the average teacher pay in Florida was more than $16,000 less, or $53,098. Add in that Florida has one of the highest inflation rates in the country, thanks largely to housing costs, and it becomes an almost impossible situation for most teachers, which is why so many are forced to work second and third jobs, and some are leaving the state entirely. Here to discuss this is Carl Hernandez-Matz, president of the United Teachers of Dade, and Alicia Gant, a teacher at Goldman Senior High, who is leaving the district in a couple of weeks to become a teacher in Washington, D.C. Thank you both for coming in. Alicia, I want to start with you. Just a couple of years ago, you were Teacher of the Year at your school?
Yes.
You know, and now you're leaving.
Yes.
Was it really about the money? Is that the issue? I mean, how hard was it for you? What were you making here?
Well, my base pay here is 51, and that's with 14, 15 years of experience. The offer that I got in D.C. Is 99 base.
Wait a second. So you're a teacher here in Miami-Dade for the past 15 years, and you're making in the low 50s.
My base pay, yes.
And your starting salary in Washington, D.C. is going to be $99,000.
Yes, starting.
And you showed me the paperwork
Yes.
of the offer that came from the District of Columbia.
Yes, it's crazy, I know.
How hard a decision was that? Forget the money side of it. To leave here, to leave a place on your students. You're here for just a couple more weeks at Goldman High.
Right.
How hard is that?
It's extremely hard because I am a product of Miami-Dade County. I went to Miami-Dade County Public Schools as a student. I got my master's in Miami-Dade. I'm getting my doctorate in Miami-Dade, and all of my family's here. But again, I have to think about my future. I'm a single parent, and my child is going to be going to college soon, and I have to start planning and getting things in order to make sure that we are okay.
Your daughter is sitting just off stage watching you, very proud of you, I'm sure.
Yes.
But it's not easy to uproot.
No. And then down here, just to get an apartment, you need 2 incomes. So that's why you have to work 2, 3 jobs or start your own business, because you can't do it with just a teacher salary with the inflation. It's not possible.
Carla, what we're hearing from Alicia is not uncommon, is it?
No, it's not. I mean, we know a lot of teachers that are struggling to make ends meet, that are living, some of them at home with their parents, and they're having to make really tough decisions. And, you know, really the only thing that's keeping them here has been what the union has been able to do. We passed a referendum twice, and that referendum has been able to create a supplement that makes it the average teacher pay in Miami-Dade $79,000. And so that has made it possible for Miami-Dade County Public Schools to keep on recruiting and retaining folks, even when the inflation is going up, because what the state is giving us is just inadequate and not enough. So
again, so I think it's important for people to remember, because they voted for this.
Yes.
These are the referendums that have been now passed twice in the state, or in Dade County, that United Teachers of Dade helped to lead to pass the effort to get these, to add supplemental pay in addition to the base salary. So, for instance, Alicia, in addition to so when your base is $51,000, with the addition that you were able to get from the union, what did your salary turn into?
Well, with the union was able to get me an additional, I believe it was like $14,000 added on top.
So you were closer to 65.
Yeah.
But that still is nowhere close to the 99 base that you're going to go to Washington, D.C.
And then the union also fights for us to get different supplements. For instance, like if you have master's pay, doctorate pay, without the union, we wouldn't even have that.
Now, you know, I know that you held a press conference earlier. Alicia attended it. Other teachers attended it, talking about having to work additional jobs. You talk about teachers having to live with their parents in some cases, you know, having to start 1 or 2 jobs or start their own businesses. But that's also leading to a teacher shortage. How many teachers is currently short in Miami-Dade County?
You know, Jim, it's a rotating or revolving door, so we don't know the exact number, but I would estimate that it's roughly around 500 openings that exist in Miami-Dade County Public Schools. And this year alone, statewide, we had 5,000 vacancies. And it's a self-inflicted wound. When you have culture wars and you have bad education policy, a governor that does not support public education but is defunding and privatizing schools, it creates this self-inflicted wound.
All right, now let's talk about what the Department of Education up in Tallahassee, they said. They claim that when the governor signs this next budget, they claim that he will have spent $4 billion in teacher pay raises since he took office.
So let's unpack that. So he's talking about cumulatively how much he's done since he took office. We're talking about 6 years. When he came into office, as a matter of fact, Governor Rick Scott had us at 47th in the nation in teacher pay. We've every year just gone down. Now we're 50th. So, I mean, if he wants to talk figures, let's talk about numbers. We are 50th in the nation. It's embarrassing to know that we are in a state that has an influx and surplus of income coming into the state budget, and that they're not prioritizing public education.
And just to be clear, when we talk about the states, there's actually one state worse than us.
Yes.
It's West Virginia, because when they do the rankings, they include the District of Columbia
Correct.
in there. So
Correct.
we're not dead last. But thank goodness for West Virginia. They hold the title of worst pay for teachers. But Miami-Dade and Florida is there. But they do make the point, that the governor's office makes the point, that the starting salary has gone from $40,000 a year to a teacher to $48,000. That's something that we can give the governor credit for, or do you not?
Well, I mean, it has gone up because the focus has been primarily on beginning teacher pay. But what happens to teachers like Alicia, who has been here, is a mid-career teacher, and her pay has not been supported by our state income. And so when you create that compression, you create a situation where you don't have money being spread out equitably to all teachers, veteran teachers, and people have to make really tough decisions.
So you may be able to possibly induce teachers with a higher starting pay, but then soon they realize there's no real progressive, place for them to go in terms of making additional money. You're here 15, 16 years. You're teacher of the year at your school. So you're the kind of teacher that we want to keep here, and yet you feel the need to have to leave.
Absolutely.
Now, Carla mentioned the issue with culture wars, and I know that you also received another honor this year. I believe what it was that you were named one of, I think it's 2 or 3 in the state, Black History Educator Award, that you were given this in February. Mm-hmm. You were nominated by your principal to the Department of Education in the state of Florida. They reviewed the records. They grant you this award. You didn't know that you were even up for it. Mm-hmm. You get the notice, and you were invited to the governor's mansion in February to go up and receive the award. And what did you do?
I didn't go. I didn't feel comfortable meeting him because he doesn't respect teachers.
So you made the choice not to go?
Yes.
Now, when you talk about him not respecting teachers, what do you mean by that?
What I mean is, if he respected us, he would pay us more, and he would listen to us, the things that we need. He wouldn't be giving money to these private organizations and these charter schools. He would give it to public education because we need it.
I'm curious, what do you think of what all the culture war battles, the battles over books in the schools and what can be taught, and the issues of African American history and all those sorts of things? Did that play into your thinking as well as to how you see your role here and whether or not you're valued here?
Well, yes, I do feel as though we are not valued and we're not respected, in the sense, like, we know what's good for our students. We know what they need to learn. We know what we need to teach, but it's as though he's putting a muzzle over our mouth and telling us, no, you're not going to teach this, that, but we need to teach it to keep the tradition and the history alive.
Can I just say
Sure.
that I was really offended when last year our Commissioner of Education said that the standards were being revamped because there was a benefit to slavery for the slaves. When you see the censoring of teachers, the changing of curriculum standards, the hypocrisy in what they're saying and how they're whitewashing history, it creates a situation where you have teachers who are, have the pedagogy, and they are truth tellers, and they want to be authentic teachers that feel that they can no longer do the work that they're supposed to do.
Are teachers afraid? Do you get the sense that they're afraid of what they're teaching in classrooms can be used against them in somehow, complaints to parents or other things like that can be routed against them? Do you get the sense that there's a chilling effect of all this is having on teachers?
To be quite honest, not at my school, because my administration really supports us, and my school is like really good. That's what makes it so hard to leave, because we have an administration at Barbara Goldman that supports us, and they are for teachers. But at other schools where some of my friends work, yes, they are afraid. They're afraid that they can be reprimanded. They are afraid that, you know, they can lose their jobs. But again, I can't speak for my school, because the administration at my school, they support teachers. I mean, first is students, but they support us. If right is right, wrong is wrong, they're going to stand behind us.
Can I just take a step back? Why did you want to become a teacher?
Well, honestly, okay, so my degree is not in teaching. I was an accountant first. And I wanted to get into something that would be closer to me raising my daughter, since I knew I was going to become a single parent. And my mom said, why don't you try being a teacher? Because my mom's a teacher, my brother's a teacher, my other brother's a teacher, my aunt's a teacher. So I said, no, I don't like other people's kids. And so I subbed at this school called Charles Drew Middle School. It was a middle school. This was back in 2009. And I fell in love. I realized, like, they need me to show them there's much more than Miami. Like, I just fell in love with the kids. And since then, I maneuvered through the inner city. Like, I took some kids inside of the White House, and President Obama was there. Like, this was in 2010. We did a field trip, and some of those kids never been outside of Miami. Their minds were blown. So stuff like that, just showing them that there's more than Miami. There's more than the drugs on the corner or the prostitute you see over there. No, there's more. And I just love that aha moment where they realize it and they want more and they want to get outside and do things. So that's what made me stay.
Did you ever have moments where you regretted becoming a teacher?
No. No. Because I do it for the kids. Now, you do have some issues or some things that happen with adults, but I do it for the kids. That's it.
What's the recipe? Well, how do we fix this? How do we not lose teachers like Alicia?
We have to fund education. We have to elect pro-public education candidates who care about our community. We know that education is a cornerstone of democracy, and if we have a strong education system, then we'll have a strong economy in the future. And so we really have to see what those platforms are, what these people stand for, and really support public education and our teachers.
You know, and I think it's always important to remember, who sets teacher salaries? Where does that come from?
That comes from the state.
That comes from Tallahassee?
Yeah. Comes from the state, because we get funded from the money that gets our tax dollars go to Tallahassee. They spend a whole session trying to deliberate where those budgets are going to be improved. So Tallahassee is who sends the money to the districts, and Miami-Dade County Public Schools is a donor county, so we get less money than we actually send to the state.
Real briefly, we're running out of time. What are your kids must know that you're leaving.
Yes.
What are they telling you?
In their mind, I'm not leaving. You're not going. We're gonna stand in front of the door. You're not going, Miss. We don't want to hear it. We're not. They're delusional. They don't want to accept it. But I tell them I have to. I can't afford to stay here.
How hard is this?
Very.
Leaving them.
Very, very. I've had these kids since the 9th grade. I teach right now juniors and seniors, so it's extremely hard that in 2 weeks I'm gonna have my last graduation.
Alicia Gant, I really appreciate your coming in. I'm sorry that you're leaving. We shouldn't be losing teachers like you. This is a real shame. Carla, thank you for your time. All right, when we come back, we'll be joined by the former mayor of Key Biscayne, Mike Davey, who is running to unseat Congresswoman Elvira Salazar. Stay with us. Welcome back. Democrats are hoping to take back the House in Washington this November, and one of the seats they are hoping to flip is the one currently held by Republican Congresswoman Elvira Salazar. 2 Democrats are running to take on Salazar. We recently had Lucia Baez-Geller, and this morning we are joined by the other Democrat in the primary, former Key Biscayne Mayor Mike Davey. Mike, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
So there's a number of things I want to get to about why you're running the rest of it, but one of the things that really caught my attention was you almost learned that you may not have been eligible to vote for yourself because you were deactivated from the voting rolls in what was clearly some sort of a screw-up by the elections department. So let's talk about that for a second. What happened?
So back in January, I saw a story somewhere online or on TV about people being purged from the rolls, right? We've seen what the Republicans have done in Tallahassee to make it more difficult to register, to make it more difficult to vote. So I went online and I heard something about Democrats being, more Democrats being removed than Republicans. So I thought, oh, let me just look into this. I've been in the same home for 11 years. I've been voting since I moved to Florida 21 years ago. I've been registered in the same precinct. So I went and checked, and sure enough, I had been deactivated as a Democrat, and my father, as a Republican, had not been, and he's only been there 3 years, same address, different apartment. So it was easy to reactivate myself, but I was curious as to why it happened. So we contacted the SOE, and they said there was some mistake with my address. So they had deactivated me in October of 23.
But you hadn't moved or anything.
No, I hadn't done anything.
And just to let you know, I did check to make sure that you had voted. Yep. Otherwise, because if you're not voting in every general election, sure, you can be deactivated. That's one of the things that the Republicans did was that trying to cull out some voters who don't vote on a regular basis. There's some suspicion as to whether or not that's intended to sort of target Democrats. And I'm not suggesting that Democrats were unduly targeted in your case like that, but it is a good reminder that people probably need to be checking to make sure they are still actively on the rolls before they show up and vote. And
that's right. Yeah, I think one of the reasons we're putting out the message now is to make sure people check. And again, this is for everybody across all parties, everybody should be voting. It's important that people take part in the process, and I want to make sure that people understand that you could be removed and you would lose your right to vote. I mean, again, deactivation is just the first step, but we want to make sure people are able to vote.
All right, so let's get to the heart of it. You're running for Congress. You're running in the Democratic primary to take on Maria Elvira Salazar. Why are you running?
So, look, I've served 12 years as mayor and a council member on Key Biscayne, and I believe in getting things done for the people who put me in office. And the fact is, Maria Elvira Salazar has not been performing for this district, frankly. She's up there to perform political theater. She's not up there to do the work that we need done for Miami-Dade residents. You pointed out that she didn't vote for the infrastructure bill, and Miami-Dade is ground zero for infrastructure work. We've got a lot of work. You talk to anybody in any of the municipalities in my district, they all have major infrastructure projects that they need to do.
She takes credit for the projects,
correct,
hands out the big checks, but she actually had voted against the project.
That's right. Well, she voted against the bill. She voted against the funding, and that's critical. Look, I don't care what your party is, but you have to take care of your residents. You have to be there for them. It's policy before party. You've got to make sure your people are taken care of.
So let's talk about party. Up until 2018, you were a Republican.
Correct.
What made you switch?
Basically Trump. I mean, the way the party moved over, the way the party started taking care of people. When I grew up, I was raised in a Republican household that was socially liberal, fiscally conservative. I believe in small government, always have. But what I saw in 2016 was people started to get away from the core beliefs of the Republican Party, which, the Republican Party supported ERA, right? We were people who supported voting rights. We supported people's rights to be Americans. And now what I was seeing at that time, and what I've continued to see, is that there's no longer that support in the MAGA Republican movement. There's certainly Republicans who still stand for those things. We've seen it in Washington. But my opponent, Maria Elvira Salazar, doesn't believe in those things.
So obviously one of the major issues in this race may be abortion.
Correct.
So what is your position as it relates to abortion?
I fully support Amendment 4, and I believe that we need to codify Roe v. Wade when I get to Washington.
I guess what I'm curious about is, what do you see as what differentiates you from, let's deal with the primary first, before you get to the general election. What differentiates you from Lucia Baez-Geller?
So I think there are two things. First, I am a former Republican, as you pointed out, so I can reach out to those voters. The fact is, this district is going to require, it's a one-third district. So in order to win, we're going to have to bring people over from the Republican Party. We're going to have to bring independents over. I'm already doing that in our campaign. Folks I'm talking to who are Republicans are coming over and supporting us. People are changing their party affiliations to vote for us in the primary. And moreover, I have the experience. I can deal with the infrastructure issues. Key Biscayne, we've been leading on a lot of this, the sewer, septic to sewer programs, the stormwater programs, beaches, environmental issues. We've been leaders in that, and I've been proud to be a part of that. And so I can take that and get that work done in Washington when I get there. I
want to, again, just because you had previously been a Republican, although I accept that you were a moderate Republican, I think you even supported Barack Obama at one point.
I did. I voted for Obama twice. And then
not a very Republican thing to do at the time.
No, but you know what? His ideas were stronger, and frankly, the fact that Sarah Palin was on the Republican ticket with John McCain, it was untenable for me to support Senator, and I completely supported. I support John McCain, the person. I just didn't like the ticket.
Are there room for moderates in Congress? It seems as if what we have now more than ever is a complete polarization where more and more gather to the extremes and not to the center.
Look, I think not only is there room, there's a need. We have to be moderates. We have to be able to work across the aisle, right? We need to get things done. Washington has got to go back to working for the American people. We've got to get things accomplished. The infrastructure bill, the immigration bill that was hung up because Republicans didn't want to bring the issue forward. There are so many things we need to deal with in this country that are being politicized to the detriment of the American public.
I want to talk about a couple other issues. Let's talk guns. Where do you come down on the issue of the Second Amendment and guns?
I have a weapon. I own a weapon, but my belief is that it should be a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of the state is the start of that amendment. And so I believe it should be well regulated. I believe assault weapons are dangerous. I don't believe they belong in the hands of people who are unlicensed and untrained to use them. I don't believe in large magazines being in the hands of people, other than professionals and people in law enforcement. I think we've got to be stronger. The fact is, a society that when I went to talk to some school children a few months ago, and one of the concerns they brought to my attention was guns in schools. And I thought, a society that can't protect its students is not doing its job. And so we have to step back. And the fact is, if we're not going to regulate, we need to close loopholes. I commend Joe Biden for doing that. We need to close gun show loopholes. We need to ensure that people are safe, that they go to the movie theater, they can go to a bar, they can go to their religious center and not be worried about a loud noise in the back. And we, as electeds, have to do more to defend them. And so I support
I'm curious. Republicans have basically turned this into a red state. I don't know if you agree with that or not. I don't know if you still think that this is a swing state, but there is an overwhelming Republican advantage in voter registration. Why do you think that is?
Look, I think part of that, frankly, is that people have been disqualified, disqualified from the rolls. So I think when you do the voter, look, if you checked in January 1, I wasn't registered, right? So how many people were not registered, wouldn't have been on the rolls on January 1? So that's the question I have. I believe most people are in the middle. The fact is, I don't believe it's that big a red state. I think there are certainly portions that are redder than others, but I believe Miami-Dade is certainly in play. I've met a lot of Democrats, and I've met a lot of people who are in the middle who believe the state, can still go blue for Joe Biden.
Did you vote for DeSantis in 2018?
No, I did not.
Okay. And I'm assuming you support Joe Biden. Are you concerned at all? The Trump-Biden, what do you think the Trump presidency would mean for this country, the second round?
I fear, and this isn't hyperbole, I fear for democracy. I mean, you look at what happened with January 6th. You look at his attempts to overthrow a fair election. I mean, Republicans have acknowledged that was a fair and well-performed election, and so he's trying to overthrow that. I fear for our democracy going forward.
Mike, I appreciate your coming in, and it was good. I'm glad that we had just a chance to talk, and maybe we'll even schedule a little forum between you, and we'll see it together. We'll see where that goes. All right,
Jim, appreciate it.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we'll be right back after the break. If you have any thoughts or comments, feel free to contact me at jdefede@cbs.com. I do enjoy hearing from you. Well, that's all the time we have. We'll be back again next week. Thanks again for watching, and enjoy the rest of your day.